the teeth. Give me the teeth. Okay, good. Now thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Right, now okay sign. How about a happy okay sign? Big smiles, super good. Give me a peace sign with duck lips. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Hey, Matt.
Hands together. Give me a teamwork.
Matt.
Yeah.
No cheesy stock.
What? Oh. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. So my name's Matt, and out of curiosity, I like to address the elephant in the room with stock photography. How many of you think of stock and you think of a picture of a happy woman eating a salad or a mature couple giving a piggyback ride on the beach? Yeah, lots of hands, lots of hands. That's what stock was. What stock is today with Adobe Stock in particular is a lot more authentic. There's a lot more diversity. Stock has evolved and grown and continues to evolve and grow. And so I'm hoping to help you alleviate some of those misconceptions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what has worked for me as a stock photographer, what Adobe Stock is looking for. We will talk about intellectual property, all sorts of fun stuff. And so I'm on the contributor success team with Adobe Stock. I'm based in Seattle. I'm also a contributing photographer for Adobe Stock. I've been shooting stock for over 10 years now. I've got just under 14,000 images in my portfolio that have, it's been a 10-year process to get there. But that's not what I do as a photographer. I don't consider myself a stock photographer. I have a full-time photography business. In addition to my work at Adobe, I shoot entertainment and celebrity events in the Seattle area. And I'm pretty busy. I shoot several events per week, but I'm not busy 7 nights a week. And so if I have downtime, I shoot stock, I get that content online, and then that's passive income for me. So when I am busy, I'm still earning revenue on my stock content. And so I'm going to show you some of the images that I do in my entertainment work. And so these are editorial images, which Adobe Stock doesn't sell editorial because we have to have signed model releases for a commercial license. So Dave Grohl's not going to sign. If we have questions coming from that room, I'll answer them too. So Dave Grohl's not going to sign a model release, so I sell that through other outlets. And so, we did some work with Ethan Hawke with the Seattle Film Festival. This is Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks. I did a job for Nickelodeon. He was getting slimed for a commercial before he hosted Kids' Choice Sports Awards. I was a house photographer for the Oscars when Leo won, which is a pretty great experience. And so growing up, these guys are my heroes. And so I love shooting music. I love shooting entertainment events. But this has a really short shelf life for me. Once the concert's over, the pictures will sell for a little while. And then they kind of fade out as new images of the same people come in, right? And so when I'm shooting these types of events, I'm always looking for content that will have a longer shelf life and stuff that I can use for stock. And so here I am on an editorial assignment. I captured this image. This photo sold hundreds of times and continues to sell at Adobe Stock. This could be taken at any venue in any town, USA. You can't recognize any people. There's tons of negative space in there, so advertisers could put their text in this. And so this is a good selling stock image for me that I got while shooting an editorial assignment. I wasn't there to shoot this, but it was the opportunity presented itself, and I captured that. And same with this image. This picture sells all the time. I see this in constant articles about, don't be that guy at the concert. And how many of you guys were at Beck last night? An incredible show. That guy is but I was actually one of those guys. I'm such a hypocrite. So don't listen to anything I say because I totally had my phone up, even though I shoot music all the time. But that's why this picture was successful. So I want to show you these 5 images. There's a point to all this. So U2 is arguably one of the biggest bands in the world, right? Oprah Winfrey is a pretty big deal. You got The Boss, you got AC/DC, you got Sir Paul. So take those 5 images, and over the course of the time I've had these online, the combined total of sales pale in comparison to the next image I'm going to show you. And you're going to understand why it is, because the next image is, arguably one of the greatest photos in the history of photography. You ready? Ta-da! Woo! Who doesn't love jelly beans? Is that the stupidest thing you've ever heard of in your life? Paul McCartney versus jelly beans, and the jelly beans crushed it. So this picture sells all the time. And this was an accident. My daughter is a senior in high school. When she was a sophomore, she had a school project. She needed to create a business, and she needed a marketing campaign to go around it. So she did a candy store. And so we bought all these jelly beans, and so we did a fun photo shoot with her and with the candy. But I had the lights. I had this pile of candy, and so I snapped the picture. I thought, okay, I'll upload it. Well, this has got hundreds of downloads just in Adobe Stock, made thousands of dollars for me. This is an image that sells a lot of what's called an extended license. So Adobe Stock sells 2 licenses for all intents and purposes. There's a standard commercial license, which is the most common. It's used for most advertising campaigns, can be on a billboard, magazine ad, and whatnot. But if the customer that's buying an image needs to put the image on an object in which the primary value of the product being sold is the image, then they need to purchase what's called an extended license. And this image really goes well with an extended license. I've seen this in wrapping paper and on greeting cards and things like that. And so that's why this particular photo has made me an exceptional amount of money. Now, I'm not telling you this because I want you all to go out and take pictures of jelly beans, because this is my market, okay, you guys? You get your own candy or whatever. I'm just saying. So these are my girls. This is Savannah in the back and Sophie in the front. So Savannah's now 17, Sophie is 14. This picture still sells. So this is passive income for me. I've taken pictures of my kids. You know, everyone takes pictures of their kids, but I'm a professional photographer. Sometimes the last thing I want to do is pick up my camera. But this stock has been a great excuse and opportunity for me to document my children's lives, the evolution of my family, my wife and whatnot. I get great pictures, and then I upload it and monetize the photos. And so here's Sophie on the left with 3 of her girlfriends. I gave each of these kids $20. They loved that. I've known them since they were very young. We talked to the parents about signing model releases, and I'm going to get into model releases a bit later. But they love it, and they get the pictures for their Instagram, and these pictures sell quite well. Okay, you can say it. Aww, am I right? This is Hudson. He is by far my #1 best-selling model, and the great thing about working with him is that his modeling fee is just 1 piece of popcorn. You hold that up, and he is like, he held this pose for a very long time. And so this picture sells a lot, but I do tons of pictures. Now, how many of you guys have a DSLR that on the back has a little switch? It goes from photo to video. Anybody? So for me, my comfort zone is photos. However, when I flip that switch and shoot just a little 5-second clip, I don't know if this is going to play, this sells. There's a high demand for video content. We sell videos 5 seconds to 60 seconds with no audio. As you can see, like, that's a little shaky. I'm not a skilled videographer. This is sold, I think 10 times or so, and I make between $28 and $32 per download on that, so that's a couple of $100. I was there to do the still shot that you saw, but I captured a video during that, and that added to the money that I earned from the day. Let's see, where are we at? That's the same video. Let's watch it again, because it's that amazing. All right, so this shot is another one. We take him to the beach and put the goggles on, snap it. So we were in Target and saw this book on the top shelf. I had no idea that was happening, so it was filled that. My friend was in Las Vegas and saw this magazine advertisement. So that picture also has been downloaded hundreds and hundreds of times, the whole series of images from that. I love showing this to creatives that work with design. So that as beautiful as that dog is, he's still a filthy mutt and gets fleas every now and again. So we took him to the veterinary hospital. They gave us this medicine pack, and I thought, talk about custom service. They gave me flea medicine with a picture of my dog on the packet. Thank you so much. The doctors couldn't believe it, right? But the reason I like to show this is because I want to talk about scale when you're doing design. Look at the size of that friggin' cat. What a freak show. I love that picture. So this is my hometown. Like I said, I'm from Seattle, and so it's an excuse for me to go out. I wouldn't go and take a picture of the Space Needle. If you live in Los Angeles, you fly to Seattle, you're going to want to take a picture of the Space Needle, right? But for me, it's like I see it every day. But shooting for stock gives me that excuse and that motivation. And I like to show this slide. I'm going to talk about intellectual property quite a bit, but I want to give you a sneak peek of it. And so the Space Needle is privately owned, and it's protected by intellectual property. So I can't take a picture of the Space Needle, add a title called Space Needle in Seattle, and put Space Needle in the keywords. That would be an intellectual property violation. This is not a picture of the Space Needle. This is a picture of Seattle, Washington. This is just a general cityscape, and that can't be trademarked. And so this is fair game as long as I don't put Space Needle in the title or in the keywords. Does that make sense? Cool. Stock photography is an excuse. Like wildlife, there's a big market for it, but there's a lot of really great content out there. It's not something you're going to make a ton of money on, but we have the largest gathering of bald eagles in the continental United States, just about an hour north of my house. And so this is an excuse for me to rent a long lens, drive up, and spend a couple of days doing what I love, capturing this. And then I do it because it's feeding my soul, but the images still feed my family too as they grow in sales over the years. This is my brother Pete. He's a police officer in Tacoma, Washington, and so I like to take advantage of the resources that I have available to me. And so we set up this shoot. You couldn't just go to a cop in LA and say, hey man, put your hand on your gun, it's gonna be awesome, I wanna take a picture. And So my brother, he was cool with it. I didn't put his face in it. And I, cloned out all the police department images, and so I took full advantage. We got these kinds of shots. Now, I'd like to throw a disclaimer out there. I'm older than my brother by 2 years. We shared a room for our entire lives, and growing up, I beat the crap out of that kid. I mean, I was merciless to my brother. I fully admit it. We did this shoot, and it turns out Pete did not forget those beatings, because that little jerk tased me right after I took this shot. So know who you're shooting and be careful. Here's another example of the dangers of shooting stock. So this is a workshop. I'm going to try to mute it. Can you hear me over this? This is a workshop we were doing in Orlando, Florida. I had about 45 students in front of me, and then out of nowhere, this bird just comes at me, and this goes on for a long time, and I'm trying to keep my cool because I got a whole class in front of me. I'm thinking to myself, how can I turn this into a unique stock opportunity? What can I do that this opportunity is presenting that I wouldn't normally be able to do? And so I came up with this idea for a photo, and I think it came out really good. And it was a good team building thing. We had a great time with that shot. So, you take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves to you, right? And not everything is planned. Just walking through Manhattan, I came across this scene, shot at f2.8, and, just focus on the lines. You can't recognize any people. You can't recognize any property. And so this is a stock image. I happen to have my camera with me. So I shot the photo. I uploaded it. It sold quite a bit. One of my neighbors, their house burnt down, and so as a good Samaritan, I grabbed my camera, raced over, and started shooting stock. And so, it's stock. This image is not stock ready. There's a couple of logos on the tanks and the shirts that need to be cloned out. But again, I just when I see an opportunity, I try to take advantage of it. Same with this scene near my house. I tore this down. I cloned out the logos off the machinery. This is really good stock. I see it in urban development articles and the impact on the environment that humans have and so on and so forth. We went to Hawaii last July, my family, my wife and kids. My wife had been planning the trip for a year. She had our itinerary logged for every minute of every single day. 7 o'clock in the morning, we'll wake up, we will have breakfast. Today it's going to be French toast, and this day, and then 11 o'clock, we're going to walk on the beach. You're going to hold my hand, you'll turn, you'll look in my eyes, you say I love you. We will then have dinner, and so on and so forth, right? So I said, in the middle of vacation, I really want to go fishing. She's like, no, you will not be going fishing. And I'm like, honey, I need this for stock. I was a restaurant manager in the seafood industry for many, many years, and so that was my excuse. And so it actually worked. I couldn't believe it, but she let me go fishing. And so this was a stock trip, and I wrote that whole trip off on my taxes as a result. And I caught a mahi, and I shot stock throughout from start to finish, because as a seafood restaurant manager, I knew this screams fresh seafood, and so I knew this would be good stock. When I travel, I like to shoot travel because, why not? Everyone does that. If you're in a new place, you take pictures. Well, I'm able to monetize that work by shooting for stock. It's for fun, but it's for money. And so this is my version of a selfie. I happen to have the Brooklyn Bridge to myself in the middle of the night. Walking through Berlin in the middle of the night, I came across this scene, snapped that picture. Buildings that are more than 120 years old. Now, this is the focal point of the stock, right? As opposed to the Space Needle, which is part of the overall scene. This is a photo of this church, and I can still sell it on stock because it's more than 120 years old, which most buildings in the world, that allows these images to be sold for stock. So what is stock? It's not any one thing. Stock can be any number of things. It can be images that defy expectations, images that surprise and confuse you. Stock can be images of happy families to be. Stock can be scenes shot from above. Images that tell stories intentionally. Stunning, simple portraits. Authentic content showing people with their pets. Beautiful lighting, artistically composed shots. This is a stock image. Inspiring people. Stunning landscapes. Tasty food. Stock is a blank canvas. It's not any one thing. Whatever you love to shoot, that's what you should be shooting for stock. Whatever you're passionate about, you're going to be better at shooting that than someone that doesn't share that passion. And so if you think about Adobe as a company, you think about Adobe Max, 14,000 creatives, and you magnify that around the world. It could be argued that Adobe is impacting the lives of the majority of creatives in the world, right? And so that's the audience. And that's a diverse range of people buying stock, and so there's an equally diverse range of need for content. So shoot what you love, submit that, and then as you get in the comfort zone, then you start broadening your horizons, you push your I don't know, you push yourself out of the comfort zone and, expand your portfolio, but a good starting point is what you already know and what you're good at. So what types of content do we sell at Adobe Stock? We sell JPEG images of robots, and so JPEG only for photos. The minimum resolution is pretty small, 2400 by 1600 pixels at 300 DPI. Pretty much anybody's phone can make that size. I recommend you submit the full resolution, maximum file size that your camera is capable of, because if you submit an image at 2400 pixels, a designer might need something at 3000 pixels, and so you're limiting your audience if you submit a file that's too small, but it can sell. There's a lot of web use as well. So JPEG images, we sell illustrations of robots. We sell vector images of robots. We take AI, EPS, and SVG vector files. We sell videos, as I mentioned, of robots. 5 seconds to 60 seconds, no audio. And these sell for $80 for HD or $200 for 4K clips, and so it's a great opportunity to, again, supplement your work. And then I would still be shooting photos of the scene if this was my content. We sell 3D assets at Adobe Stock. We sell design templates for Photoshop. I can just throw myself right in the middle of the robot's belly and, easy peasy. This is something popular. We sell motion graphics templates. These are very popular. Everybody loves the Mogerts. And so those are the types of content. Now, what are we looking for? That's the number one question that I get asked. Like, what does Adobe Stock want? What sells? And I can't tell you, we need images of people, taking a coffee cup out of a microwave or some very specific detailed shot. But Adobe Stock has released visual trends. And so the 2018 visual trends were announced in 2017. The latest ones will be rolling out this week, and we're about ready to start talking about the 2019 visual trends. But I wanted to go through some of the visual trends from 2018. And so the fluid self was the first one that we released because the very notion of identity is evolving. And so ad campaigns are looking for diversity, and the fluid self visual trend really speaks to that. The second trend that came out was called multi-localism. Tourism and technology are creating an interconnected global village. So here's some other images, examples of that visual trend. Touch and tactility. We shot this video that you saw me getting slapped in the face with a fish. Now that's touch and tactility on the extreme. But that was a video this is going to be released in a couple of weeks, and the video will be on the Adobe Stock blog as well. But you can connect the viewers through touch, like you can, texture and whatnot for this visual trend. Creative reality is the next visual trend. It can be fun to take refuge in creative fantasy. The sky's the limit, Adobe. I think I saw this scene at the Bash last night on the right. I don't know, it was the sugar area. There's gummy bears, and then this person, I don't know. History and memory, the expression, the good old days. Remember the good old days? So history and memory speaks to that. This is the visual trend for history and memory. So why should you contribute to Adobe Stock? I mean, that's a good question, right? Why should I do it? And so the ultimate, at the end of the day, it's about monetizing for me. I love to make money doing it. I talked about shooting for fun. It's an opportunity, excuse for me to get out, take my camera. I force myself to do work, but ultimately I'm trying to make money doing this. And so you monetize your skills. You probably have hard drives with content just gathering dust, doing nothing for you. So you can start with that. Get that put up online. And again, it earns that passive revenue for you. Create new content allows you to branch out. Promote yourself. This is a great way to market yourself. Show your work. People can be drawn to your portfolio. I have had people contact me, with Hudson in particular, say, we love the look of your dog. We have this product. Recently, it was Sudsy Mitts or something like that. It's kind of a hand mitt that had soap. They wanted pictures of Hudson with that, and so I got a commercial job out of my microstock collection. So it's a way to promote yourself. And so just recently, Adobe Stock contributors, it was announced that they have access to Adobe Portfolio. Now, if you're Creative Cloud members, you already have access to Portfolio. A lot of contributors are not Cloud members, and so they can now access Adobe Portfolio, build their own website. I spent some time on this last Saturday putting it together, playing around with it, and what's super cool is now you can build a collection in the Adobe Stock Contributor Portal with your favorite stock images, like I did one called Favorite Stock Shots. And then you can sync that with Adobe Portfolio, and so it goes over. Now I have images. This is Jason Momoa on the lower right side is the new Aquaman. He loves himself. And so I took that picture, and that's not a stock shot, so this is just a gallery from my own portfolio. The image on the bottom left is from Adobe Stock, and so it has a watermark on it, and all the images inside have watermarks as well. But the elephant image I took in Africa, that's a stock one. I played with it. You can change the cover image. You can resort the images inside of the portfolio, and so shuffle it around. And so I experimented with that one. I like it a little bit better on the cover without the watermark. That's my personal preference, but by default, it's going to have the watermark on that. And so this is what it looks like. And then what's super cool is if you share this with people, it's out in the universe, there's a button, buy an Adobe Stock. They can click that from in Adobe Portfolio. It'll take the customer to your image in Adobe Stock where they can purchase a license to use that. So it's a fantastic way to promote your own portfolio and your work and get it out there. And so Adobe, we partner with creatives. We are not, without photographers and videographers and illustrators, Adobe Stock doesn't exist. And so we're not just a content distributor. We want to be a true partner. We support and promote through Adobe-owned channels, campaigns. And so here's examples of the blog posts that we share, social media and things like that. We're always looking for ways to feature contributors into the Adobe Creative Cloud members and the world. We've got a pretty large reach. Here's an example of Adobe Stock content being used in a tutorial that was made for Adobe, and so there's a link in the lower right side if you want to check that out. But Adobe Stock content being used by Adobe for Adobe promotions, and of course that's always licensed, and it's a great way to get your work out in front of potentially millions and millions of people. Go and take your photos, all right? And so here's, some of you have probably seen this, we've showed this at Max before, the hovering art director. This is an example of what differentiates Adobe Stock from our competition, why and how Adobe Stock has changed the game for many designers. And so I'm just going to let this roll for a minute.
Hey Dan, have you got a sec?
Yeah.
Great, because the client's going to be here really soon. You know, I've got this amazing ad for the new ginger beer.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Can you turn it up, Dave?
But rough. But also epic, but quite modest at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Great, so if I leave you, what, about an hour? Is that enough time?
Well, it's not finished, but...
No, clearly. It needs to be more manly. Give him a beard.
A long beard or, you know, stubbly beard?
Yeah, long.
Like dwarf long?
No, not that long.
Okay.
Well, he's Mother Nature, but then he's also like Father Nature as well.
Asexual.
Ooh, maybe we should add some wolves. No, whoa. That's, no, not a whole pack.
So...
Do you know what? I was right. We do. We need a whole pack of wolves.
I suggest...
Oh, Kim. What do you think? Check it out.
Wow, really raw. Nice work. Okay, from a strategy perspective though, millennials are 58% more engaged when there's a kitten in the advert, so can we work that in somehow? Oh, by the way, the client is here.
Kittens don't work. What about a baby bear?
Yeah, whatever, thank you.
Just a baby bear there. Baby bear there. Right there. Baby bear.
Alright, okay.
2 pixels to the left.
Okay.
2 pixels to the left. Bigger, 10% bigger.
Alright.
Stop. Perfect. Stop.
Yeah?
Yeah. Great. Done.
Classic, right? So it's an awesome video, but the thing about it is in the library panel, hopefully a lot of you have seen that you can search for stock content within Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever program you're working in the library panel. So if you've got a project open, you can drag a low-res watermarked comp into your project. You can make it black and white, flip it upside down, do whatever you need to do to have your client approve that image. They like it, you want to buy it, then you just click the license button. That removes the watermark, converts the file to the full resolution image, and your edits stay in place. And so that's a game changer as opposed to buying from a different agency in which you have to download the comp, do your edits, get it approved, go back, find the image, bring it back in, redo the edits. And so we really make it pretty seamless. And so that's the big differentiator for Adobe Stock. And so, as I mentioned, one of the questions I get is what type of content are we looking for? But the biggest question I get is how much money can I make? The answer is how long is a piece of string? There is no answer to that question. The potential is limitless. We've got photographers and videographers and illustrators. Photographers submit a couple of pictures here and there. They make a couple of bucks here and there, and they're cool with that. We've got creatives that are working every week, every day, creating amazing content, putting it up online, and they're making deep six figures. Those are the two extremes, right? The average is somewhere in the middle of that. And where you fall in that spectrum is entirely up to you. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You can't upload 10 images and expect to retire off of those. It takes work, it takes time, and learning, but the money you can earn is out there. We've got millions of customers buying Adobe Stock assets, and so the specific details, the commission for images is 33% of the price that's paid by the customer. And so the price paid varies based on how many images the customer commits to buying. And so, for example, they can buy a single image for $9.99 or 3 images for $30. So that's $10 an image. So the commission on that would be $3.30. They can buy 10 images for $29.99 a month, and that's going to pay a 99-cent commission. They can buy 750 downloads for $200 a month. And that's a very low price per download, but it's a very high volume of sales. And there's a minimum commission amount that's put into place. So you're not actually getting 33% of that. You're getting much more on those lower ones. But it's a micro stock model. And so you get your content uploaded. You get an email notification from Adobe Stock. Says, congratulations, you've made a sale. And you think, all right, sweet. I'm going to open up the email. I'm super excited. My first sale. And you see this. Oh, yeah! Thanks, Adobe. Woo! 33 cents? Wow! I can finally buy that newspaper I've been saving up for. It can be disheartening to see that. And I hear this all the time, and I know that. And I see these types of sales because it's a high volume, 750 downloads for $200, and those are the commissions that I'm seeing. And then the next day, you upload a few more pictures, and you see one for 99 cents. Maybe you get 6 of those at 33 cents. And then you get one for $1.65, and $3.30, and $7.40, and $28.50, and whatnot. And you got 100 of the 33-cent ones mixed into there. And so at this point, as I mentioned, I've got just under 14,000 images in my portfolio. I've turned off my email notifications because it floods my email box so much, and so I check the sales tab in the portal instead to look at, but it's the volume of sales. I've stopped worrying about the individual commissions, and I'm asking myself, how much money am I depositing into my bank account at the end of the month? And that's where I'm gauging my success. As long as my sales continue to grow and increase, then I feel like I'm on the right track and doing the right thing. And so that's how you can earn significant income from a 33-cent download on a stock photo sale. Make sense? No, it's okay. Let's see. So what sells? For me, I'll talk about for me. So if you're creative, you've probably had a family member or a friend contact you and ask you for a favor. Hey, can you design a logo for my website? Hey, can you shoot your niece's wedding or senior portraits or whatever? My sister Megan, she takes it to next level. So she lives in Portland, Oregon, which is a 3-hour drive from me, and she called me one day and said, hey, my kids are in this dance class. They've been in this dance class for years. All the kids in the school are going into competition, so they need portraits. The dance instructor needs to update her website, and so they need some studio shots and whatnot. And so I told them that you would drive down, shoot all the kids' portraits and then all this stuff, and you would do it for free because they're really on a shoestring budget. I thought, oh, wow, that's so cool. Thank you. So I can drive 3 hours each way, bring my thousands of dollars of gear, and take 30 kids, all this stuff, so the full, and how much you get? Oh, free? Oh, yeah, no. And she was like, she couldn't believe it. She was like, she had no idea, she didn't realize that was so what? And so then I got to thinking though, okay, wait a second, this can be win-win. I asked her, I said, if you talk to the parents of all these kids and you tell them if they sign a model release allowing their likeness to be used for commercial licensing, then I will do this. Essentially trade for print, right? They get the images, I get the stock content. And so she talked to them, with the exception of 2 kids, I think. Everyone is excited about it, and I made sure we communicated what signing that model release means. I always over-communicate that, and so I tell people you can see your image on a billboard, you might see your image in a magazine advertisement, you might see your image on the cover of a box of cereal, you just never know. Stock is used all over the place. And so I showed up, and the kids rushed around me, they were super excited, what kind of cereal are we going to be on the cover of? I'm so stoked. I was like, okay. And so we did these kinds of pictures. We had a great time. It was a great day. And so I did these photos. I thought, okay, this is pretty nice. And the teacher was real rigid. Like, if you ever seen Dance Moms, it's a pretty intense process for these little kids, right? So I thought, okay, this is fun. And so we did some portraits. I thought, oh, yeah, this is money. I'm going to make so much on this. This is super cool. And it sells. I've probably got, 30 or 40 downloads on this. I'm not sure. But the picture that sells literally every single day for me is this shot. Kids being kids. Authentic people doing real things. This is what's in demand, authenticity. And this just happened because they were doing that rigid thing I said, just go crazy. And so they started spinning around, dancing and jumping and just free dancing and having a good time. And then they just organically swooped in together, like instinctually, made this photo. I snapped it, and this is what sells. It's a real dance studio, and so that's authentic. And these are authentic kids. Like, one of them's got a blue Slurpee tongue going on. Like, it's very real, right? So that's what's one example. So you want to focus on authenticity. That is really what's in demand. Keep up to date on the latest trends. Like, this image features this guy, and the photographer overlaid Bitcoin information onto that because Bitcoin's in the news right now. This might be a short-lived seller, but Bitcoin is, I just saw an article yesterday about the stock going up and whatnot, and so this photographer took advantage of this current trend and is doing well with this image. And so pay attention to the latest trends. Plan for seasonal events. Right now, you should have your Christmas tree up. Like, we're a total freak show in our house. Like, I'm thinking about getting the Valentine's Day decorations out. You want to take pictures on Christmas Day, of course, but you don't want to upload those to stock on December 26th because nobody's buying Christmas pictures on December 26th. I actually have pictures that I took last Christmas that I'm about to upload. I have them already. I'm going to upload them this week. And then I'm starting to think about Valentine's Day. So 2 to 3 months in advance. But holidays, it's a great subject to shoot. There's always a need for fresh content for holidays, but just plan it in advance. Watch the news. Pay attention to what's going on and create content that speaks to what's being spoken of. You want to tell stories with your images. And as I've already talked about, I love to utilize available resources. Like, if this was my grandpa's shed, I'd be there every day, like, make the sparks fly. Like, this is super cool stock content. And so this picture, this is my dad. And so he was out on a walk kind of in the middle of nowhere, and poor guy slipped, he fell, broke his ankle real bad, laid like a just helpless guy for 30 minutes in agonizing pain. Finally, an ambulance came, picked him up. They took him down to the VA. They put him on the top floor of the VA, and there were floor-to-ceiling windows. I grabbed my daughter. I drove down to see him, make sure he was okay. I got in there. I saw the cast. I saw the window, the beautiful light, and I was like, yeah! Woo! Stock photography option. And he had a tear. It was real, and he thought, I see you looking at me with judgment, but this is paying the bills. Even my daughter, she was 12 at the time, like, get in there and hold your grandpa's hand. She's like, I don't want him. I'm like, hold his hand! Utilize available resources. Shooting stock, you discover what sells, you figure it out. Like that picture, that portrait I thought was going to do well, the fun shot I didn't expect to do so well, and so you figure it out as you go. You get a feeling for what works, and so some content might be rejected outright that you think is good, and you get a feel for that. And some stuff you think is going to be great is not sell as much, and some stuff you think, oh, like the jelly beans. Like, I would have never in a million years predicted that the jelly bean shot would be one of my top sellers, right? So you learn that. I like to hire models. I take pictures of my dog, my kids, my wife. There's available resources, but I do also hire models to do stock shoots. Working with professional models, they're a lot more comfortable in front of the camera. I use a site called Model Mayhem, and I always pay my models, but there's plenty out there that will do trade for print, and so that's something to think about. Set the scene, and I'm going to show you a video that we made last year that talks about that, and I'll go into it a little bit more.
Rather than posing a static shot and just taking a photo of people saying cheese in the camera, we're going to set up the scene. And so we've got Chris and Ellen at the front door. Dom and Sarah are ready to greet them. I'm going to shoot from behind Chris and Ellen real quick, and then I'm going to run inside, get a different angle, same scene, but the photos are going to look completely different. And then we're just going to have that moment unfold. So we did the same thing with food. We set the scene. We didn't completely assemble these meals. We've got beautiful dishes planned, but we had the ingredients isolated and then asked the models to interact with each other while putting the dishes together. Those scenes were authentic, they were fun, and that's conveyed in the images.
Please stop.
You all ready? All right. So I asked everyone who likes to play with fire, and one person gave a maniacal laugh. All right, so hopefully that made sense. When I'm doing a shoot, I've got props, I've got images. I'll show this next slide, a shot list. I plan out my shoots in advance. I write it down. I use this as a guideline in case I get stumped. I like to be able to refer. I always go off the rails of my shot list, but I use it as a guideline and to kind of pre-visualize what's going to happen. But then we improvise as we're shooting. But if I get stumped, then I can refer back to that, like, oh yeah, let's go in the kitchen and do the dishes scene. But when I'm setting up these shots, I'm not doing the work. Like, I didn't have a food stylist there putting those dishes together. I put the models to work and made that part of the stock shoot. The end shot, it was great, but some of the best stuff is when they were doing it and having fun and laughing, and it was like none of those models had met each other beforehand, but this process of the shoot and putting stuff together lended itself to authentic moments in the stock photo shoot. And so something else it's important to do is emphasize space for copy. A designer can buy this and they can crop that in. I would probably shoot tight on the boat also and submit a couple of different angles, but give them something where they can put text in, whatnot. And so Adobe Stock now, in the search tool, you can do a crop preview. And so designers can see what the image would look like cropped, and so they can buy it. But the reverse isn't true, right? If I used a 400 millimeter lens and zoomed right in on that and shot that, they wouldn't, if they needed the scene, they couldn't buy it. But the reverse is true. If they wanted just that, they can crop in. So hopefully that makes sense. I usually do try to add a couple of images with space for copy. And consider potential uses. Like if I was a designer that wanted to buy this stock image, what would I be using it for? And so ask yourself that question. And if you can't answer it, then you want to rethink your strategy of the shoot. I mean, we get pictures sometimes like it's just, literally dirt on a cracked sidewalk, and that might get rejected for lack of commercial value. And that's a tough pill to swallow to get that rejection reason. But there isn't much commercial value to that. And so think about what you would use the image for before taking it. And if you can't, maybe, like I said, adjust that things. Represent diversity. And diversity isn't just gender or race. Like, it's a diverse world that we live in. And designers that are running marketing campaigns, they want to speak to a broad audience. And so get diverse and create content. I love this image. I think this is a strong image. It's one of the best tennis photos I've ever seen. Another example, and then avoid oversaturated topics when shooting stock. And the pun is intended. This photo is oversaturated, but the content itself is also oversaturated. It's impossible to see a beautiful sunset in Hawaii and not pick up your camera and take a picture of it, right? That's going to happen, and you can submit it, and there is a market for it, but there is a lot of really, really good sunset pictures already out there that you're competing against, and so I just like to give you a realistic expectation that you might see a few sales on that, but it's probably not going to be the one that you're going to retire on. This image of a sunset has interaction. This image has over 1,000 downloads. This isn't my photo, but this has something going on. This is a stock photo that it breaks the norm of the average sunset photo, right? Submit only the best of the batch. And so what I mean by that, okay, so I'm a pretty heavy-handed shooter. I'm going to take a picture of you guys. You all need to sign a model release before you go, just a heads up. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Ready for this shot? Okay, cool. That was like, I don't know, 60 photos I just took, and they're exactly the same. if it was properly exposed, which it's dramatically underexposed, it'll never pass the muster. But I would take one of those photos and submit that. So take as many pictures as you want, but when you're culling, be selective and only send the best of the batch. Make sure that there is a unique, sellable differentiator in the image, and so only send a few from each series and make sure they're different enough to add additional value to any potential customers, okay? But here's some of the subjects that we take that sell. There was a stock photographer in my class yesterday, Inti St. Clair, and she mentioned also medical is a big seller for her, and so I'm going to add that to this list. But I mentioned, the diverse range of content needs, and so architecture, food, drink, industry, lifestyle, science, sports, tech, transportation, travel, environment, business, graphics, and then whatever else you want to shoot. But these are some popular subject matters that sell quite well in stock on a consistent basis. All right, I see you taking the picture. You got it? Okay, hold it. Hold it. Yes. Nailed it? Oh. Okay, well, you got 3, 2, oh, it's on. Doggone it. Okay. Editing tips. This is going to sound funny coming from an employee of Adobe, but less is more when it comes to stock. You want to submit the clean, color, sharp version of your image. That gives the most opportunity for designers to customize it to match their project exactly. So if you converted this image and submitted it, converted it to black and white and submitted it, the only customer base you have, the only potential customer you have is someone that wants the image in black and white. If they want it in color, they're not going to buy it. However, if they buy it in color and want it in black and white, that's a simple conversion to make for them. And so they can make that change. The reverse is not true. And so less is more. Scrub logos, again, we're going to talk about intellectual property in a little bit, but this is not editorial content, so it's fair game. You can edit it however you want, and so clone out the logos before submitting. You submit it for review. Our moderation team takes a look at the image. The first thing they're checking for is intellectual property violations, and so then they're checking for technical aspects and making sure it meets all of our criteria. Speaking of intellectual property and release forms, so a big question is, is the copyright mine? Of course the copyright is yours. We are just an outlet for you to monetize your work. You can sell through multiple agencies. You can sell through your website, have an art gallery, or whatever. You can take the content down at any time. The copyright is always yours. We're just selling a license to use the image. The person that buys that license does not have the copyright. Don't copy the work of other artists, obviously, right? That makes good sense. And the content does need to be created by you. Downloading an image from Google does not make it your image, so do not submit that. Modified public domain, generally, we're not taking public domain content. So okay, so model releases, a recognizable person, you have to submit a model release with that image before we're going to accept it. And so recognizable doesn't just mean a face. It can be a tattoo, it can be a scar, a situation, or whatever. In the case of minors, the parent needs to sign. They need to print and sign their name on there. You, the photographer, need to print and sign your name. And on the paper releases, you need a witness to print and sign it. We also have Adobe Sign integrated into the Adobe Stock contributor portal, so you can type in the name of your model, the email address. The portal send the release to that person, then he or she will click to sign, it comes back to you, you click to sign, and then it's in the portal. We're going to do questions at the end, okay, because I'm sorry, but hold it, don't forget it, I'm counting on you. So you submit the release, and then it's in the portal. I personally use an app called Easy Release. Spelled just like it sounds. It costs me $9.99. We don't have any affiliation with the Easy Release, but it's super convenient for me. It's in my phone. I take a picture of the model, then I have him or her sign with their finger on the app, and I've customized it so the text from the Adobe Stock release is in there, and so that covers all my bases, and so that's what I personally use. Same with property releases, and so this is my house. I'm very, very popular, as you can see. And so if a property is recognizable, then you need a property release signed. And so this house, my house in particular, could be in any cul-de-sac in any town in USA, but this toilet paper attack, toilet paper, ketchup, mustard, Vaseline attack that we're still cleaning up, that identifies my house, right? And I'm going to tell you the story behind this. It has absolutely nothing to do with stock, but it's one of my favorite stories and actually one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in my entire life. And so my daughter, Savannah, senior in high school, they have this kind of organized thing where girls get together and they go to the boys' house. So they had matching T-shirts and little paint on their face, and they went to the boys' house and put teepee on the lawn, and and they came back, and it was all cute and fun. The next day, the boys go to the girls' houses, and they, took it pretty serious. And so at midnight, they showed up, throwing toilet paper, squirting ketchup, and all that stuff. And they, were loud. And so I opened my front door, and they heard me, and they took off running. I live on a panhandle lot, and screw you, Hayward, and blah, blah, blah. And so then, very cool. So that was fun. Hour later, they come back, and I heard them, same deal. I come out the front door, and they run off laughing and doing their thing. 2 o'clock in the morning, they come back, and now I'm starting to lose my patience. Like, the fun of it is kind of over. I scare them off. 3 o'clock in the morning, they come back, and so this time I'm changing my strategy. And so I saw their car park. I was waiting for them. So I went into my garage, and I let them get into position. They're throwing the toilet paper. They're squirting the ketchup. I can hear them kind of snickering and stuff. And so I'm going to paint a picture. It's not a pretty one. I'm only wearing my underwear, you guys. I'm standing behind this garage door, and I wait till just the right moment, and I just rip it open, like, what's up, you guys? And so all of a sudden, they're like, oh, my God. And one kid starts spinning around. Another kid fell down. 2 of them crashed into each other. One ran into my yard. There's no escape, and he didn't know what to do. And then they're all just taking off, right? Absolutely terrified. So I go back into my house, and my wife woke her up, and she's at the top of the stairs. She's like, Matt. And I thought, oh, no, did I go too far? Like, they're just kids. And she's like, that was awesome. So then right after that, I'm sorry for the language. I bleeped it out, so hopefully you can't recognize what the word is. But this was one of my daughter's friends' Snapchat. And like I said, the single most proud moment of my entire life. Okay, so this is an image at the same photo shoot where I was brutally attacked by that swan. This image, we had model releases. Actually, this guy on the left was one of the bartenders at the Bash last night. He's from Florida. Anyway, long story. So this image was rejected for an intellectual property violation. Any guesses why? The socks and the shoes. So the Reebok logo on the socks, you can only see the OK, but that's clearly a Reebok logo. The New Balance logo on the shoes, clearly identifiable. Like looking at the image, you can't, it doesn't stand out, but the moderators are looking at these at 100%. And so what I usually do going into a shoot is put gaff tape over any logos on clothes. I always tell my models to show up without any recognizable logos. That's almost impossible when it comes to sportswear, and that's almost always there's going to be something on the shoes or a little Nike swoosh or something on the shirt. And so I put gaff tape over it. It's not attractive. It doesn't look good, but it reminds me to clone that out. It's easier to clone out for me. And also if I forget and I miss it, it's still going to pass the test of intellectual property. And so that's my thought process there. So this shot, this is Diego, who works on the customer service team. And so we did this photo. We signed a model release, but the image was rejected for intellectual property because of the phone. You don't see the Apple logo on the phone, but that button is clearly identifiable. I know what you guys are thinking. What kind of loser still has a button on his iPhone? It's my phone, you guys. I need you to stop judging me. I'm not allowed to buy the X yet. But that's what identifies the iPhone, is that button. So you clone that out, it's fair game. This image features a bunch of people and cars and stuff, but not one of them is recognizable. There's no release required for this image. And so I'm asked all the time, like, hey, I can do street photography and submit that, right? I can take pictures of people. It's fully legal. You can take pictures of them, but you can't sell commercial licenses of their images. You need a release. However, this image, they wouldn't recognize themselves in this scene, and so this is totally fine. This photo, you can't see the guy's face, but you invest in a tattoo like that on your head, you're probably going to recognize it when you see it in an image. And in this image, you would actually need a property release as well, because the tattoo really is the main subject of that image, right? And so that's the intellectual property of the tattoo artist. Now, if it was just a photo, I stand with my arms crossed and I had a sleeve of tattoos, that's a whole different story. This image is totally fair game. Unless your grandma has some badass tattoos on the back of her hand, take pictures of her hands, no release is going to be required. This image, no model release required. The hand's not necessarily recognizable. However, you need to submit a property release because this is the intellectual property of whoever drew the doodle. Now, if you're the photographer, you drew this, you still need to submit a release because the moderation team doesn't know that you're the one that created that art. And so you would submit a property release where you sign it as the contributor and the property owner. Hopefully that makes sense. The Eiffel Tower is a really good example of the subtle rules of intellectual property. And so I snapped this picture earlier this year. It's more than 120 years old. It's public. It's totally fine to take a picture of the Eiffel Tower during the day. However, when the lights go on, it's dark outside, the lights of the Eiffel Tower are trademarked. The people that put the bulbs on have the scheme trademarked. And so you can't take pictures of the Eiffel Tower at night and sell that at stock. So that's, how do you know that? We have the moderation team that's going to tell you that when you submit your content. You guys know that because I just told you. There's a lot of weird things like that with different spaces. And so just keep that in mind. If you get it, if you get an IP rejection, it can be confusing. It may just be an obscure rule, and you guys can send me an email or a ticket through the contributor portal, and I'm happy to answer that for you. How do customers find stock? You can have the most incredible image ever, the perfect stock photo with massive market opportunity. If customers can't find it, they're not going to buy it. And so I would say as important as the quality of the content you're submitting is the keywords that you add to it. So keywords are what customers use to find the image. This is what drives the search engine. And so something that's unique to Adobe Stock versus other agencies is the first 7 keywords need to be the most important keywords. The first keyword should be the most important, the most relevant. It's going to have the most weight in the search results. The second keyword also needs to be important, but it's not going to have as much weight as the first one. The 7th one is also still pretty heavily weighted. By the time you get through 8, 9, 10, 11, they start having less and less influence, but it's the combined effect of those keywords that work. So describe the keywords first. Add keywords that convey feelings, mood, or trend. And so this image, so this isn't my shot, but this is what I would put, is swim is the first keyword, and that covers swims, swimmer, swimming. So swim covers all of those. Swimming pool, woman, athlete, exercise, fitness, health. And then we go into the less important ones, but describe what the image is. And so this tells a story. So you can add, the fewest keywords you can add is 5. The most keywords you can add is 50. You want to make sure that your keywords are relevant. You wouldn't add the word man to this image, for example, because someone looking for a man swimming finds this image, they're not going to buy this photo. So don't try to trick buyers. Be accurate in describing what the image is. Now, Adobe Sensei does interpret what's in the image, and it'll recommend up to 25 keywords for you automatically if you don't submit the images with the metadata already embedded. And so what I mean by that, so I add my keywords using Adobe Bridge. And the reason I use Adobe Bridge is because it doesn't change the order of the keywords, because again, you need to put the most important ones first. Lightroom actually alphabetizes the keywords, so you can add those keywords, but you need to make sure to resort them at the end. So I use Bridge for that reason, so I don't get to see the automatic keywords. But if you don't add keywords before uploading, then Adobe Sensei will recommend up to 25 for you. And it does a really good job, but it's not perfect. And as I mentioned, this is the most important part of the process. And so you want to go through the keywords and make sure. So this is a picture of my daughter and her friend. The first keyword Sensei gave me was woman. It's an irrelevant keyword to this image. No one, if they're searching for a woman, they're not going to buy this image, right? So I deleted that. The 7th keyword, I think, is girls. So I moved that one up to the first one. Hair is a big part of this image. So I moved that up to the 2nd keyword. And so I go through those, and then I add what I think is missing as well. I spend time in my keywords. It can be tedious at times, but it's worth the initial investment in time to make sure you get it right. The title, also important, but not nearly as important as the keywords. The title's not searchable in Adobe Stock. And so if this is the title of my image, so I shot this photo in Manhattan, but I changed the keyword to city, or the title to city. And then I make sure to add the word city to my keywords. I add the word woman to my keywords. That's going to give it a little bit of extra oomph if it's in the title and in your keywords. But if it's just in the title and not in your keywords, it's not going to show up in the search results. So keep that in mind. Adobe Sensei now, this is a new feature, is recognizing the content and recommending titles for you. And so you can essentially upload your images and have Sensei do all this work for you. It also does an automatic category. The auto title, you have to click and you see the drop-down options underneath it, and this is an example of it in use, and it's pretty accurate. Okay. So to break it down, we accept vectors, photos, videos. You want to utilize available resources. You want to tell a story. consider the buyer and how they might use your content, focus on authenticity, submit diverse representations, create impeccable images without obvious editing or filters, help find your work with strong keywords, use model releases, of course, no cheesy stock, right? And so that is basically it. So the contributor portal, this is the link. You guys all have a card on your chair that has that link on it as well. So contributor.stock.adobe.com. You just need an Adobe ID to sign in. You don't have to be a cloud member to be a contributor to Adobe Stock. If you are a Creative Cloud member, you can use that same Adobe ID, and then you can upload through Lightroom or through Bridge. But again, you don't need to be, and so it's free and easy to do. You submit your content, goes to our review team, they put it online, and it's that. And so I want to take some questions if you guys have some. I think we have a little bit of time. I know you had a question first. If you're the person in the photo, do you need a model release? The moderation team has no idea what you look like, so yes, you need a model release if you are in the image. You would sign it as the photographer that's submitting the content and as the model. Okay? Yes, sir. Is your deck online? It's not, but it should be, and so I will look into that and send it out. I'm sorry, it's not online. Thanks, though. Yes, sir. If you submit a vector graphic of the Eiffel Tower with the lights on, is that fair game? I don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think it would be fine. It's not their actual lights, you know what I mean? That's my best guess, but that's a total guess. So submit it, and it'll get rejected if the answer is no. I saw one hand over here. Yes? Somebody in front of you is going to have to yell that louder. How big the maximum, how large should the image be? How is the maximum file size that your camera is capable of making? Don't up-res the file unnaturally, but submit the full resolution, the maximum resolution that you can. I'm going to go over this side of the room. Yes? I can't hear. We're going to have to do the phone game. No raw images. You can upload raw files through Lightroom. It'll convert it to a JPEG for you, but we don't sell raw files. It's only JPEG images. Yes, sir. Is there a future of 360 VR content? I mean, it seems logical to me, but I'm not in that development aspect. Yeah, I think so, but I don't know. Not right now, no. Yeah. Yes, sir. Can you do both? If you can do both, do that. But, the question was should you submit video in slow motion or in full speed? Give them the option to convert it to slow motion. I think whatever you give them the most options with is your best bet. And so if they convert that to slow motion, because you can't do the reverse, right? So that's going to be a better approach. Yes, sir. Can you submit to multiple stock agencies? You really shouldn't, because we're the best. But yes. Absolutely. There's no exclusivity requirement. You can submit to as many agencies as you want as long as it's Adobe Stock first. Yes, sir. I'm coming down so I can hear you. Multiple models and multiple images. Do you need to have releases for everyone? Yes, anyone recognizable. So if I took a picture of you guys, and I'm serious, you need to sign a release before you go. I took that shot. I would need, 16,000 releases for this presentation right now. 10 images of the same person. Do you need to submit 10 separate releases? No. I take a picture of you today, I upload it, I attach a model release, and then I take a picture of you tomorrow. I can take the release that I uploaded today and attach that to the release. It's stored in the contributor portal with your name. And so as a photographer, if you're doing multiple shoots with the same model, I recommend you get a release just as a CYA form, but we don't require that. You can use the same release over and over again. Yes? Who's liable if you get sued for selling an image? Adobe offers a pretty heavy indemnification to customers, and so the customer is protected. And so that's why we're super sensitive about IP issues. We check that out, but it would be a collaborative effort. I mean, I have never experienced that happening. But yeah, we check that pretty heavy in advance to prevent that from happening. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Do you recommend avoiding any kind of creative editing and just keep it as simple as possible?
Yes. Do I recommend avoiding creative adjustments to the image as opposed to submitting the plain one? I do. If you're going to do one or the other, do the clean color, sharp image, and that if the designer wants a funky border on it, a weird like overlay, they can do that themselves to match their product, but they can't undo that. You can submit, up to 3 variations that are comparable. You just want to avoid, like when I took, 100 pictures, you want to avoid being spammy. And so on and so you can be creative, but you're limiting your market severely if you do that. Yeah. Yes, sir. Is everything uploaded through the web portal? I guess I should have mentioned that. So you go to contributor.stock.adobe.com, get your account set up. The first thing you're going to see is a big blue upload circle. You can just drag your content on there as much as you want, and it'll upload through the portal. That's what I use. You can use Lightroom and Bridge. You can use FTP. You have to use FTP to upload video. But the upload circle for images is simple, clean, and easy. You can upload through Bridge and through Lightroom, but I use the portal. That's the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. Yes, sir.
I go through stock almost every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I limit myself to like 5 to 10 pages before clicking through.
Okay.
Before stopping. So what's the likelihood of your image actually going up?
So you look at stock every day and you stop after, you never go more than 10 pages deep into the search. And so if your image is on page 11, what are the chances of it selling? Not as good as if they're on page 10 or 9 or 8, but it just depends if they're not finding the image that they're looking for. But that's why you want to upload content on a regular basis so you stay relevant in the search. Because then what happens is if they see an image on page 1 that's yours, it's not exactly what they like, but it's in the similar theme, they can click on your name and it'll take them to your entire portfolio, and then they can search within your portfolio for content that they like. And so there are many very powerful search tools for customers to find content. We do our best to show them as diverse a range of content as possible. But yeah, I mean, I have images I uploaded 10 years ago that are on page 3,612. That would be the most patient designer in the world to get that far. You know what I'm saying? Yes? Yep, you. Have I ever submitted something that I've taken on my phone? Yes. Like the iPhone X, you guys, that is just like stupid. You saw I have a 6, and I know I saw the Judgment, but the 10, their X is like, yeah, you can submit phone content as long as it's going to be judged with the same scrutiny as if it was taken with a 1DX Mark II. It still needs to meet the same technical standards, but I mean, some of these phones are just like stupid good. So yeah. Yes, ma'am. About which? Is there a thing that covers everything in intellectual property? No, that doesn't exist because there's so many obscure things. We have a Learn and Support page. There's a link at the bottom of the contributor portal that opens up this whole world of information, and one of the things is legal guidelines. We have a list of known image restrictions. That's not all inclusive, though. There's going to be these, we don't know every space on planet Earth, but the more common things that come up get added to that list, and so it's a great resource to look at. Yes, sir. Does Stock give us a list of contracts that what? We have model releases in that same Learn and Support page. In the contributor portal, you can download the release. As I mentioned, I use, there's Adobe Sign is an option in the contributor portal. You can use your own release. I use Easy Release. As long as the legal language is met and all the required signatures are met. It's one standard release. How many different releases does Adobe provide? The language is the same, but there's several ways in which you can distribute that. So the legal coverage is the same. Yes, ma'am.
So all buildings younger than 120 years are?
Not all, are all buildings younger than 120 years old protected? Not necessarily, but as a general guideline, if they're over 120 years, they're usually fair game. But not everything. There's some buildings that it's just a brick wall. You don't know what that is. You know what I'm saying? So, no. Yes. Expression. Disruptive expression is the theme for 2019. Yes. I looked at that. Disruptive expression is going to be one of the 2019 visual trends, and that's not been released yet. But for me, I thought, like just protests would be one thing. I kind of envision like a Chinese lion dance inside of an office space with a bunch of cubicles, like totally like freaking out a bunch of people. Like I want to shoot that video just because I'm weird like that. It gets released on the Adobe Stock blogs. The 2018s have been out, but the Adobe Stock blog has that. Yes, sir. Drone footage, what's the market like? It's like in demand, it's hot. If you're a drone pilot, get it up in the air and shoot good content. People are buying that, photos and videos for sure. It's really hot. Yes? How do you get paid for your content? Fantastic question. I'm sorry I didn't tell you that sooner. So you need to accumulate up to $50. 50 is the minimum payout amount. As soon as you have $50 in your account, you submit a payment request through PayPal, and it's processed within a week. Yes, there's a 1099 that comes at the end of the year. This is taxable income, and so that's like I said. I wrote that fishing. I wrote that entire Hawaii trip off on my taxes because I pay taxes on the revenue that I earned from that trip. Yes.
You said that you wouldn't upload your Christmas photos December 26th, but you will soon because Christmas is coming up. Does that mean that the search algorithm sees those as old or stale photos and will bring them up?
So why don't I upload pictures on December 26th? Does the algorithm see them as old and stale? What new content is coming in October, and that's pushing your stuff deeper into the search. Right now is when people are working on their Christmas designs. If it's not being bought, so is it weighted based on the time that it's submitted? The way it works is if someone sees that image and it's not purchased, it goes a little bit deeper into the search. And so if you wait for a year, there's a bunch of new content that's coming in and people are seeing and buying that, and so it's pushing yours deeper and deeper into the search results. Yes? Do I need property releases for public assets like highways and bridges? Usually no. It can depend, but generally no. That's usually fair game. Yes? As a stock contributor, do you use your legal name? So we need your name in your private, what's the word? Privately, we need your name, your profile, thank you. Woo. However, you can use your public-facing name as any alias that you want. There's no restrictions on that. And so a lot of people do that. I use my name. I put Mat Hayward out there because then people can find me. I'm very Googleable, and so they can find me and commission me to do other work. But that's just a personal choice. Okay, one last question. Yeah, you.
Let's say, like my sister, she hired a photographer at her wedding to take the pictures and just give her, pictures, and she would develop them.
Okay.
You take a picture of like the nice building where they got married. Is that her picture or the photographer's picture?
So your sister got married and she got her photographer's pictures back, and the photographer that took the picture owns the copyright. So they're not your sister's to sell. She bought those pictures, but it's not her copyright. The photographer could sell those images if your sister had signed a release. Cool? Okay, you guys, so this is really important. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to fill out the survey. If you didn't like it, just keep that to yourself, okay? Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it.